Hi there, I'm Elizabeth and I like to sew smart, and today I'm going to sew smart using 7.5-inch squares. Sometimes when you've finished your quilts and you've made a 7.5-inch square or a 6.5-inch square quilt, you're left with spare blocks, just the square of fabric, and you think, what can I do with it? Well, we don't need to waste it. What we can do is you can make bunting out of it. You can make party bunting, you can make babies bunting, Christmas bunting, celebration bunting, any kind. And it's really simple to make, and I'm going to show you how to. You will need 13 of the 7.5-inch squares and one strip across the fabric of 2.5-inch binding. Now, the squares can be anything you've got left over, or you can alternate the colours, have 2 lots of fabric, and all you need to do is you need to fold it in the square into a triangle, bring it up to the top and fold it again. Press it down nice and neatly and evenly, and then you'll be left with something really nice with sharp corners. And you will need 13, so you will need 7 of one and 6 of a contrast if you're going to do a contrast. I've got one here which I'm now going to make up, and mine is a Christmas fabric left over plus a contrasting green, and I'm going to show you how that is put together to make this. So to start making your line, I use my board to line it up to an inch mark, so we've got it right along there on the straight. Then you're going to lay this one. You can do it 3 inches away, or 4 inches, or 2 inches. It depends how wide you need your bunting. But if you just line it up to there, on the 3-inch mark, put that one there and pin. Lay the next patterned one. Again, there's your 3-inch mark, 1, 2, 3. So you'll lay that one. Bring it along. Again on the 3-inch mark and pin. And the contrast again, 1, 2, 3. All the way along. Keep it as straight as you can until you've used all your squares. I'll call them triangles from here on in. And now what I'm going to do is pin them right the way along and then stitch them. So now I've pinned them all the way along from start to finish, and I'm using a generous 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to stitch across the top to secure them first off, all the way along. So just fastening them together very lightly with the 1/4 inch seam, making sure that they catch underneath. Take a little bit of time with this, make sure that it's really nice and neat. So I've taken my binding strip, pressed it under generous 1/4 inch on the end, just folded it over and pressed it all the way along, and now I'm going to attach it to the top side of the bunting. I will just pop a pin in there, and we're going to stitch that using the outside of our foot on the machine all the way along to the end. So I'm using a normal foot, and I'm stitching, lining up the selvage of the materials with the outer edge. I will take my pin out, and I have back stitched just at the beginning. Line it up each time so that you catch all of the edges in. So I've turned my binding over, that's the side we just sewed on. I've turned it to the back. Now I'm going to use, I like to use my 1/4 inch foot, and I like to use the left hand hole in the 1/4 inch foot and my needle position at 0. It catches this in very nicely. It will come, the stitch line will be perfect along there, and when you turn it over, the stitch line will be on the top of the binding perfectly on the other side. So I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot to sew all the way along on the other side now. So we're stitching on the wrong side, but on the top side you'll see this really nice neat line of stitching catching all your binding in. So now I've stitched on the other side all the way along, and this is the top side, so you've got a nice neat line of stitching there. I have left the end open ready to hand stitch because sometimes I put a little ring on for a hanger, but I sometimes actually will join it to another piece there. So you've got a really nice piece of bunting now. You can do it in a party one. If you were having an end of school party, it's a nice idea maybe to use some like school fabric to make a classroom bunting for a surprise for the teacher even. Or as I said earlier, nice Christmas fabrics you can do. There's lovely blues, sparkly blues, red, traditional red and green. It makes a lovely gift. Also, I think it's a nice gift if you give a piece of baby bunting with a new baby quilt, and you can match up the squares that you've used in the quilt. So have fun doing that. I think is a really nice, smart way to use up all your 7.5 inch squares.